The magical aids. Though a genuine magician is able to carry out everything by his own powers, which he has gained as a result of his spiritual maturity during his development in the ways of magic, it remains up to him to avail himself also of ceremonial magic and to make use of it and of all its aids as much as he likes. The advantage ceremonial magic offers is that by repeated, respectively constant use of one and the same instrument, results can be attained without the use of the magician's personal strength. Ceremonial magic thus makes possible an easier working with occult powers by the use of various aids. Actually, all auxiliary devices, all magical instruments, are aids to the magician's consciousness and memory. By directing his attention to a certain instrument, the faculties and powers it symbolizes are brought to his consciousness. As soon as the magician, during an act of evocation, takes into his hands one, or the other, of his instruments, he will get the contact he wants and the results he is aiming at without any special effort. If, for example, he takes his magic wand in his hand, which represents his absolute will, the contact with the desired spirit will be attained at once, due to this wand, by means of the magician's will. The same will happen in respect of all other magic aids, for they, too, symbolize spiritual forces, laws and qualities. The magician who wants to make use of ceremonial magic must be very particular about his magical instruments, for these are to be treated with almost religious awe. Their value rises with their careful, exact and attentive use. Magical instruments are the same as holy relics and help the magician to create the necessary temple-like atmosphere required for ceremonial magic. At the moment of their application, the magician must be almost in a state of complete ecstasy. Should an instrument be used for any purpose other than the one for which it is intended, it loses its magical effectiveness and can no longer serve its original purpose. Since every magical instrument demands a special feeling of respect in the magician's consciousness, it must be kept out of those persons' sight who are not truly initiated, in order to avoid its desecration. Before the magician reaches for his magical instrument, he must, therefore, undergo a mental cleansing process by prayer or suitable meditation. He must never touch a magical instrument, unless he is in the necessary composure for the ceremony. He must always be aware of the fact that every magical aid or instrument symbolizes the most divine laws and that they therefore must be handled like relics. Only in the hands of the magician, bearing all this in mind, will the instruments bring about the desired results. Taking all the measures recommended regarding his adjustment to all magical instruments, the magician will bring about, in himself, an extremely strong manifestation of faith, of will, and all properties of the law, and thus increase his magical authority that he will be able to influence a being or a force, by his will, to bring about the results he is expecting. Even though the magician may not use his magical instruments for a considerably long period of time, they still remain in constant contact with the faculties they symbolize. As every instrument is magically charged with, i.e., dedicated to, a special purpose, it never loses its magical powers, provided it is handled correctly, not even if centuries pass from the moment of its last application. If the charging and consecration of the magical instruments is such that they may only be used by a certain magician for whom they have been manufactured, no other magician can make use of them. They would not have any effectiveness even in the hands of a magician who is fully initiated in the holy science of magic, unless charged by the latter for his own purposes. In the chapters that follow, the most important magical instruments will be described together with their symbolic functions as well as their practical application during ceremonial magic operations. Using this information as a starting point, every magician will be able to make further instruments to serve special magical purposes, if necessary or desirable. I shall only strive to give a guiding principle of how the magician has to proceed.